and welcome to this special co-production between Audiovisual Cultures and Monkfish Productions. I'm your host, Paula Blair, and I'm delighted to be joined by Claire Murphy-Morgan from Monkfish. Hello, Claire.
Hello. Hi, Paula. It's lovely to be here.
Great to have you. And Kelly Coates from the youth and community charity Projects for Change. Hello, Kelly.
Hello, Paula.
Great to have you as well, Kelly. The mission at Monkfish is to nurture artists through creative interventions in new and unusual spaces. They work through the arts to collaborate with a wide range of communities and to support individuals to unlock their creative potential. You can see more at www.monkfishproductions.org. Projects for Change addresses the needs, voices and rights of young people, working in partnership with others to create youth work projects that help young people develop and flourish into adulthood. You can find more at www.projectsforchange.org, and both of those web addresses will be in the show notes wherever you're accessing this recording. We will hear more from Kelly and about the collaboration between Projects for Change and Monkfish shortly. For now, I'll hand over to Claire, who's going to tell us about Monkfish's current project, A Little Bit of Good in the World.
I am, yes, thank you very much. So A Little Bit of Good in the World is a project that asks us all, how can creativity help us to do a little bit of good with what we have, where we are? And it's very much an arts and culture focused project because Monkfish Productions is an arts organisation, and it came out of Holocaust Memorial Day 2020, because one of the things that Monkfish was kind of grappling with, and we're still grappling with, is that at the moment in the world we're currently living in, a lot of people feel incredibly powerless and they feel that there's not a lot that they can do. But we were really inspired by the kind of the stories of Holocaust survivors and of the whole theme of Holocaust Memorial Day 2020, which is standing together. And it is very much about a project that supports people to look at how we can stand together, to support each other, to make the world a better place for everybody. And just by doing your small little bit of good, whether that's, saying good morning to your neighbour, whether it's doing something for a friend, whether it's just being kind to a stranger, those little tiny bits of good add up into a big good. And we felt that as Monkfish, we wanted to do something really creative around that. So we worked with Newcastle City Council's Holocaust Memorial Day programme and the arts team at Newcastle City Council to facilitate a workshop about a little bit of good in the world. And it was a theatre drama-based workshop which supported a lot of participants to explore what doing a little bit of good meant for them. And it was an absolutely fascinating workshop. Pre-COVID-19, I have to say, so the world is a very, very different place to what it was on the 27th of January, which is, of course, Holocaust Memorial Day. So we were able to kind of get some ideas from that group, and we were delighted to be able to work alongside Projects for Change, because there was a project related to Holocaust Memorial Day or connected to it called 75 Memorial Flames, which marked the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau. And it was asking community groups from across the UK to make their own memorial flame, which could be included or featured in a national commemoration exhibition at the Holocaust Memorial National Ceremony. And so we were delighted to go down to London with some of the wonderful young people with Projects for Change and with the arts team at Newcastle City Council. And the project's kind of grown and developed since then, and we're working really closely with Projects for Change on the next sort of exciting little bit of good in the world journey. So that's something that we're really excited about. So going forward, we're trying to sort of get a sense of what a little bit of good in the world means as a bigger project. And it's a new project, it's growing all the time, but it's emerging in a really exciting phase at the moment. And Monkfish has come up with sort of the four C's, if you like, of a little bit of good in the world. And I'd like to share with you now what those four C's are, which kind of has come out of our work with Projects for Change, and also the workshop that we ran on as part of Holocaust Memorial Day on the 27th of January. So I've got by magic a little PowerPoint here, which I'd just like to share with you all. The main kind of focus of a little bit of good in the world, the main sort of talisman, if you like, is this quote from the marvellous Desmond Tutu, who, for those of you who may not know who Desmond Tutu is, he's a leading light in the campaign against apartheid in South Africa, and was Archbishop in South Africa for a long time. And he is very inspirational, very committed to social justice. And we felt that this quote just summed up beautifully what we wanted to do. Do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world, and that kind of set us on the journey for a little bit of good in the world. So the four C's of a little bit of good in the world. Creativity. Obviously, Monkfish is an arts organisation, it's what we do, and we are really committed to how creativity and the arts can be a focus for doing good with where we are and with what we've got, and how kind of creativity can develop a really exciting set of opportunities for people to work together, but also how being creative and how taking part in arts and culture can help people to express how they're feeling and to share that, really, how to kind of express and share that with the world. And we work in a variety of different arts contexts. So this picture is from Late Shows in Newcastle, which is a free, open to all cultural activity that happens every year. And this was our music residency, and it just allowed people to come through the door, be creative, make sound together, and through making sound create an interesting space. So creativity can be at the heart of what we do and be at the heart of communities. The next C is connection. So the other sort of aspect and focus of a little bit of good in the world is looking at how those creative bits of good connect with each other for lasting positive impact, and how can artistic or creative activity help us to make those connections happen. And we're really delighted to be, for example, working with arts projects around the city, including Projects for Change, which obviously we'll talk a little bit about later on. The third C is critical thinking. And we think that this is a really important part of a little bit of good in the world, about how creativity and connecting with each other can help us to challenge bigotry, polarization, discrimination, isolation, misinformation. There's a lot of conspiracy theories flying around the internet at the moment, for example. How can being creators help us to ask some really interesting critical questions and support people to perhaps interpret information or misinformation that's put in front of them that keeps them apart from others? And our final C is citizenship. So if you're thinking about creativity, connecting with others, developing your own critical thinking, it allows us to be active citizens and thinking about our place in the world and how we can work together to affect that positive change for each other, and how arts and creativity and culture can really sort of help us to do that. So those are the kind of aspects that we think could support people to be active citizens, and creativity and arts can absolutely be at the heart of that. So going forward, those are the kind of the things that we thought could really underpin a little bit of good in the world. So it's going to develop as a longer term project that Monkfish will be sorting and facilitating and co-leading with other arts and community organisations and with artists as well.
Thanks so much, Claire.
a little bit of good in the world.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Claire. Kelly, can I bring you in now to tell us a bit more about Projects for Change, and to maybe talk about the current project that you're working on with Monkfish as well?
Okay, thanks, Paula. Well, Projects for Change has been going just 2 years now. We've been running projects for 1.5 years, even though it feels like much longer. And Projects for Change came about really due to a decline in youth provision nationally due to austerity. We had this idea that, every young person should be able to access youth provision on their doorstep. They shouldn't have to step on a bus, they shouldn't have to go elsewhere, it should be there and freely available. And since we got up and running with our first ever project, which is called the Changemaker Volunteer Project, 1.5 years ago, it's been absolutely non-stop, and we've had lots of opportunities to really work quite closely with lots of different people, and working with the Monkfish arts has been wonderful. Our young people get a lot from working around the arts, because they get to be engaged in questions, questions that people don't often ask them, and you get their unique perspective. And that's what working with Claire kind of gives these young people a voice. And so many of the young people have met Claire before during the 75 Flames project. But now she's come back and she's that familiar face. So the young people already know her, they've spent some time with her, some of them quite a lot of time when they visited London. But here she is, and she's asking the young people these questions about their lives. How's lockdown been for you? How has it impacted you? How has it changed your community? Two of our young people are Polish, of Polish descent. And so there's lots of different perspectives there. One of our young people who's involved is very arty. She sees the world through that kind of lens. And they're coming up with this amazing stuff. And they're all having very different experiences of lockdown. And they're coming up with this alternative view, which isn't a mainstream view. It isn't the view that's pumped out through the media or any other place, really. It's unique to them. And I think that's what's really special about it, that, young people don't often get asked those really important questions about what does doing good mean to you? How has the current climate of what's going on, how has that affected your life? How can you make a difference within this context? And it's been really uplifting to have this project after lockdown and to help young people to process and come to terms with everything that's gone on. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you so much, Kelly. That's brilliant. That's really encouraging to hear. Would either of you like to elaborate on anything? Because we've had some really lovely examples there of the music and the 75 Flames. Do you have any other examples or things that you see that the two initiatives will come together to do in the future?
Shall I talk a little bit, Callie, about the arts residency that's literally about to come up any day now? Shall I talk about that?
Yeah.
So we are literally in the very final few days of doing a call out for an artist in residence, a visual artist, to come and work with the young people up at Projects for Change in the outer west of Newcastle, which is two groups of young people have been meeting in a kind of a detached youth work setting in Newbiggin Hall and also in Cowgate. And as Kelly was saying, I've visited with my Monkfish hat on, gone and visited the young people to talk about what's really important to them, and what kind of key issues and topics are really important to them as young people. So, for example, nature, reclaiming spaces, self-care, friendship, connecting. There's a number of different areas of life that are just so important to them. So we have done a call out for visual artists, an open call out for visual artists to come and put forward some proposals for how they might work with the Projects for Change team of young people to make new visual art space work in response to the brief that the young people have put forward, which covered a lot of those themes. So the deadline for that is actually next week, and we're looking forward to seeing what artists out there have by the way of ideas which we can put in front of young people, and see what they would be potentially interested in working on as a programme of activity. So, and again, it's on the theme of doing good, of what it means to do good, and also about supporting those young people, as Kelly was touching on, as active citizens, as young people, as people who really care about their local community. So that's kind of the next phase of this project, and we're hoping that it'll be a long-term opportunity for us to do more exciting work with Projects for Change and in partnership. It's been a huge privilege from my point of view to work with Kelly and the young people, because I just think they're amazing, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what this artistic residency is going to bring.
Great, thanks, Claire. And Kelly, because you're working directly with the young people and the communities involved, are you finding at the moment that the activities might be helping even beyond the surface? They might actually be helping with well-being and further ramifications such as that?
Yeah, I think Claire touched on the idea of connection, which is really important. We've kept in touch with a lot of our young people online, but there's a section of our young people who don't communicate well online, and some of them don't have internet access or the technology to connect with other people like that. So meeting them out in detached youth work has been the ideal opportunity to just check in with them and make sure that they're all right. But I think it can't be underestimated the effect that lockdowns had on young people, especially where young people have had their education interrupted at really sort of pivotal times. So you're talking people who are about to take their GCSEs, people who are mid-floor about to do their A-levels, people about to go to university. And actually there's been a lot of mental health sort of issues, a lot of staying in their room, a lot looking at the same four walls, being confused about what day it is, kind of losing all of their routines, and also being confused about the messages that have been put out there as well about what they're supposed to be doing. And I think that it's going to take a lot of effort from people in all sections of society to try and support young people through that. And that's our next step, really. And doing work with the arts is another way of helping young people. So art is understood by a lot of people as being very healing. We've recently done a mural with them, a very small group of young people. And I think for them, that really benefited them. Getting involved with Monkfish art is going to be something else that they can focus on, they can pour their attention into, they can bring themselves and their ideas to it. They can have some positive outcomes for themselves that'll raise their self-esteem, because it's very easy when you haven't got a structure within your day to kind of slip back into a lot of self-dislike, feeling low. That's ordinary, that in these circumstances, that's kind of a normal reaction to, being isolated, spending a lot of time alone, maybe a lot of too much time online, all of those things. So I think anything that we can do to work with the young people to try and coax them out of that isolation, to try and include them and get them connected with the community is absolutely 100% the way to go, I would say.
I think it's about supporting young people to have their voices heard as well, and about trying to find accessible and creative ways to do that as well. Is just something that is just so important as citizens of now and adults of the future.
It's really important, I think, to bring that access to the arts to them as well, because especially as you were mentioning, Kelly, with their school being interrupted, how many of them have art supplies in their homes and all sorts of things, and to be able to bring something to them and to build up trust and to let them experiment with things and try out you don't necessarily have to be good at something, because that's another sense of the word good as well. You don't have to be the best at it or brilliant at it, but you can enjoy it for the love of it, and being part of a community, being part of a group of people doing lots of things, and you're contributing. So there's a lot to be said about that too. Yeah. Do either of you have anything else you would like to add to that?
I think just watch this space for a little bit of good in the world, and if you want to find out more about the project, you can visit the Monkfish website.
Excellent.
And we also have a little bit of good in the world Facebook page as well.
And is there any social media accounts, Kelly, where we can find out about Projects for Change as well?
Yeah, of course, you can follow us on Instagram. It's projectsforchange_UK, or you can go to our Facebook page, which is projects_change. And also on Twitter, it's #@P4C_UK.
Excellent, thank you. Brilliant. So if that's everything, then we'll wrap up.
Thank you so much for having us.
Oh,
thank you. Thank you, Paula, and Audiovisual Cultures. Thank you very much.
Thank you both very much for joining us. So this has been a joint production from Audiovisual Cultures and Monkfish Productions, funded by Arts Council England, with me, Paula Blair, Claire Murphy-Morgan and Kelly Coates. Do check out monkfishproductions.org and projectsforchange.org to follow these fantastic initiatives and to see how you can get involved and what they're up to. Be part of the conversation with AV Cultures Pod on Instagram and AV Cultures on Facebook and Twitter. The music is Common Ground by Airtone, used under a Creative Commons 3.0 license. Thank you so much for joining us for this special collaborative co-production.